It is now time for the Robesonian Sports Report with Chris Stiles on 97.1 FM, 1340 AM, WAGR in Lumberton, covering sports for Robeson County. Now here's your host, Chris Stiles.
Here on Halloween, October 31st. Welcome to the Robesonian Sports Report here on WAGR. I'm your host, Chris Stiles, sports editor at the Robesonian. And as we do often here on WAGR, going over local sports in Robeson County, both at the high school level and UNCP. And, of course, here in the thick of the fall, that means football season. And week 10 of the high school season last week, Purnell Sweat earned a 28-12 win over Douglas Byrd. St. Paul's beat Clinton 49-6. West Bladen beat Fairmont 40-20. 71st beat Lumberton 50-0. Midway beat Red Springs 46-8. And then collegiately UNCP routed West Virginia State 62-17. So starting at the top of that list, Purnell Sweat and Douglas Byrd. I was at Big Mo Stadium for this one, and Purnell Sweat gets back in the win column with that 28-12 victory over the Eagles. Douglas Byrd led this game 12-6 at the half, and frankly was the better team in the first half. But then Purnell Sweat came out in what they call their heavy package. It's a run-first, very kind of physical run game type of package, ground and pound. And first drive handed it to Jamarion Douglas just about every play. Then that ended with a touchdown pass from Aiden Locklear to Charles Wilkes. That tied the game. Second drive of the half, lots of Devin Jacobs out of the backfield. He scores on a touchdown run to give the Rams the lead. And then a late touchdown did put it away, and the Rams defense locked down the Eagles in the second half. They did not score in the second half. Jamarion Douglas had 82 rushing yards for Purnell Sweat. Aiden Locklear threw for 65 yards and a couple of touchdowns. And Charles Wilkes, 2 receptions for 21 yards plus a 2-point conversion. And then defensively, he's one of the best linebackers around. He had 13 tackles in the win. So this ends a 5-game losing streak for Purnell Sweat, which had been winless in the conference until this game. And the Rams will host Lumberton on Friday in what is likely their season finale. They're projected right now as the 5th team out of the state playoffs per high school OT. But we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about the Rams and Pirates a little later in the show. Elsewhere, St. Paul's beat Clinton 49-6. It was a dominant performance for the Bulldogs against a one-win Clinton team. It was 21-0 at halftime, 42-0 by the end of the third quarter in the Bulldogs' favor. Joshua McBride had 222 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns for St. Paul's, really one of his best games of the year. Theophilus Setzer at quarterback ran for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, passed for 86 yards for St. Paul's. And St. Paul's defense also scored 3 touchdowns in this game on its 4 forced turnovers. Quintel McNeil and Scotland Smith each had a pick 6, and Aubrey Cobbs returned a fumble recovery for a touchdown. So for the Bulldogs, this sets up a kind of a de facto conference championship game next week against Midway tomorrow night at GS Kinlaw Stadium, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later on. Here on the Robesonian Sports Report on WAGR, I'm your host, Chris Stiles, sports editor at the Robesonian. And quickly going over the rest of the high school football from Week 10 locally, West Bladen beat Fairmont 40-20. So Fairmont will remain winless after this loss and what was, frankly, probably the Golden Tornado's best chance to get a win this year, although they do have one more chance on Friday at Clinton. West Bladen led this game 20-12 at the half. It was a back-and-forth first half. But then the Knights pulled away and actually led this game 40-12 before a late Fairmont touchdown. Jamarion Brown did pass for 237 yards and 3 touchdowns and ran for 47 yards in the loss for Fairmont. 71st beating Lumberton 50-0. It's the 39th straight regular season win for the juggernaut that is 71st. Also the 6th straight loss for Lumberton since they started the season 3-0. Donovan Frederick and DeAndre Nance each rushed for 2 touchdowns and over 100 yards for the Falcons. And it was the 12th straight 71st win over Lumberton in the head-to-head series. Lumberton has now scored 44 points in 6 conference games as part of that 6-game losing streak. They're at Purnell Sweat on Friday. And Midway beat Red Springs 46-8. It was a 22-0 Midway lead after one quarter, 38-0 at halftime. Pretty dominant performance. Red Springs touchdown did not come until the fourth quarter, scored by Jakelson Mack. Kamari McNeil and Jeremiah Blue each ran for 2 touchdowns for the Raiders. And as I mentioned earlier, they're headed to St. Paul's on Friday with the Southeastern Conference title on the line. Red Springs finishes its season Friday at Westblade. Collegiately, UNCP beat West Virginia State 62-17, and it's the second straight home game that the UNCP offense has threatened to set a new school scoring record, although they've fallen just short in both of those, but the record being 68 set last year. But in this case, especially in the first half, that offense was propelled by big defensive plays. Carlo Thompson had a pick six, had a forced fumble and a fumble recovery, and then also had a big fourth down sack leading to a turnover on downs, all coming in the first half. He was named Mountain East Conference Defensive Player of the Week. Jermaine Blank also had a strip sack that led to a Braves touchdown later on that ensuing drive. And then offensively, Joe Hayes had touchdown catches the first 3 times that he touched the ball, and 2 of those he caught the ball a good ways out in the field and ran it in for a touchdown. His 3 touchdown receptions is tied for the second most in the game in school history. He finished with 5 catches for 139 yards. And then we had the Sincere Baines that we saw last year when he was MEC Freshman of the Year last year, and kind of struggled a little bit through the first half or so of this season, but starting to come on strong here, getting towards the end of the season. 124 yards rushing on just 6 carries and 2 receptions for 43 yards for him as well, and he scored a couple of touchdowns. And he was the MEC Offensive Player of the Week. And it's interesting, Colin Johnson had a good game at quarterback, 15 for 23 for 309 yards and 4 touchdowns, and he's only kind of the 5th or 6th biggest hero of this game for UNCP, if you will, after what everyone else was able to do in this dominant win over West Virginia State. UNCP hosts winless West Virginia Wesleyan on Saturday at Grace P. Johnson Stadium. And, of course, you can read recaps of all those games on Robesonian.com and in the print edition of the Robesonian that came out yesterday. And then there's plenty of other content to go around as well. Well, we're just getting started here on the Robesonian Sports Report. Coming up after the break, we'll be joined over the phone by Lumberton head football coach Taurius Baker. We'll be right back after this. And back on the Robesonian Sports Report here on WAGR, and we're joined over the phone by Lumberton High School head football coach Taurius Baker. How's it going, Coach?
Doing all right.
Here we go.
How about yourself?
Doing good. Coming here to towards the end of your first season leading the Lumberton Pirates. So how would you assess you guys' season to this point?
Obviously clearly we want to be a little bit better as far as record and some things that, we felt that we can do better in. But overall, I think it is a successful season in that, we had to come in here, rebuild character, culture, have better performance on the field in a lot of areas, learn the game. And like I said, we were young and inexperienced. Of course, we had a long schedule as far as games. Our bye week was right after the first game, so we were essentially looking at 9 straight games of football in high school. So, when you put things in perspective, I do feel we did have a successful season. I mean, clearly we have one more game left. Want to win that one and put a stamp and a seal on that. But, all in all, I think we did well. I think a lot of areas, a lot of internal goals that we had, we accomplished, or we see ourselves going in the right direction of it. So the future looks very bright for us in that manner.
Yeah, you mentioned that one game left. It's Friday at Purnell Sweat, of course, the big rivalry game. So what's the atmosphere been like around the locker room this week leading into Friday?
Well, like I said, the kids are excited, ready to go. Always this time of the year, if you're not really facing the playoffs right there in your face with the last game of the season, whether it may be rivalry or what have you, and you get your seniors, a little bit of mixed emotions there, last game that they're going to play, and things of that nature. But all in all, being that it is a rivalry, I think our kids are up for it, definitely prepared. Our coaching staff are prepared for it. I believe the community is up for it and ready to go. So we see some good football, and the game can end out on our side of it. So, like I said, we're ready to go. We're ready to go. Actually, it starts tonight with our JV program playing tonight. So we always look at it like that. And like I said, we're ready to go get it.
Purnell Sweat has been under Coach Deese, largely kind of a ground and pound style of team. Went back to that, especially in the second half against Douglasburg last week. So how key will it be to stop the run Friday night?
It's always key to stop the run any Friday night, especially in this high school in this area. So like you said, they have their heavy unit that pretty much got them into the game. It looks like, they kind of build their offense off of that and motivate their offense off of that. So we're looking to be able to do something with it. I'm sure there might be some other wrinkles out of it as well. So you just got to knuckle up and go head up and be ready to go. Be ready to go.
And then for you guys, how are you looking to improve your own offensive execution this week?
Well, like I said, we just keep pounding at it. The learning, the teaching, and coaching, holding the kids accountable in those areas. At the end of the day, kids got to grind and make things happen and execute. We really preach no excuses, get it done. We go over a lot of different scenarios that may happen to us, that can happen to us. But at the bottom line, we really preach accountability in that area and playing the game in that area and executing. So we just keep doing it. Again, our kids are young, understanding that foundation of it and then getting it done. We just keep pushing it. We keep pushing it. I really believe in just keep teaching, keep pushing that magical rep. It'll click. Things will click for us, and we'll be heading in that right direction. So, that's the plan that we have for it.
Here on the Robesonian Sports Report on WAGR, I'm your host, Chris Stiles, and we're talking with Lumberton head football coach Taurius Baker. And you're coming to the end of your first season as the Lumberton head coach, but as a head coach in general as well. So how has the reality of doing that job kind of matched what your expectations may have been?
Yeah, I did. I have a lot of good mentors. Like I said, been around the game a long time. Pay attention, listen to advice. It's been what I expected to be. But when you're in the heat, in the fire of it, it's just a little bit different. But I had fun doing it. I love it. I love the challenge of it. Every day wasn't a great day. Every day wasn't what I expected or wanted to be, whether it was a practice or game-wise, but, I'm a man of faith, and I know that, this is part of the plan, part of the process. I believe we're going in the right direction. I'm going in the right direction. I learned a whole lot this year. If I could ever go back, even at this moment, and do some things different, change some things, things of that nature, I think that's with anybody, anywhere in processing. But, I have faith, and I believe that, things are going in the right direction. We're going to turn this thing around. All things working together for good. I truly believe in that. You just got to find the good in everything, whether it's bad or not. How can you learn? So I'm always open to learn. I'm my my best critic. My worst critic, however you want to say it. So I always critique the things that I do and see how I can do things better. And I'm a leader of the coaching staff, the program and the guys. So I hold myself to the highest standard of accountability as well. So I enjoyed the season. I really did. But just looking forward to get back at it and, getting where we need to be as far as Lumberton Pirate football.
And you mentioned earlier the seniors getting ready for their last game of Lumberton football. What have they meant to the program?
They meant a lot. Like I told them, they'll never be forgotten. Truly believe like this program is going to be in the right direction real soon. So, those guys have been like the cornerstone of it. They had a rough, 4 years, with the instability. And I also told these are the kids that also came in that COVID class. Yeah. So, I said the world was different for those kids. And then not having stability in a sport that they really love. So all those things played a part in their academic, their athletic, and, their lives to go forward. So I hope I left them with some, some values and some confidence in some areas, not just football, using football as a platform to do it, but just things for life. Like I said, they won more games than they won since they've been here, and not saying a whole lot when you want to win them all, but I really feel good about that. But Phil, I love those kids. I love this program. Love all the kids in the program. And hope that we can really solidify and send them off with a win on Friday night. That would be special for them. But at the end of the day, they're going to play hard. They're going to put their all into that. And I always say, if you do that, there's still a piece of that game you can always walk off as a winner. Of course, you want the scoreboard, and things of that nature. But, you can be upset about your performance and just, only thing you can do is go back and be better. At the end of the day, a man needs to be able to come off that field and say, I've made those personal accounts. I played my best. I executed to my best ability, and walk off with a sense of pride about and honor about what you did on that field. So that's one of the things I instill on a day-to-day basis with the guys.
What promise do your younger guys show, or have they shown this year, and what do the next few months look like for them?
Oh, wow, yeah, we're hitting the weight room very, very hard. Promise is there, man. I'm obviously excited about them. We played it young this year. Pretty much 85% of our team, they could have played JV football this year, whether they were freshman or sophomore. That being said, there's a few that we had to keep up. They did have a bit of varsity experience middle end of last year, so to fill some spots and some boys, we kept them up. Felt that they wouldn't be damaged by being up on varsity, but be productive as well as a freshman. So our quarterback position, the oldest guy was a 10th grader that pretty much his first high school experience was the starting JV quarterback last year, and everybody else is freshmen. So we built the program young. Continue to still have the expectations and, teaching all, the positions that were there. But, hey, every game that we played, every game that we went out there for, we felt we prepared and we were able to win them. So, we didn't come out there with any excuses. And like I said, the biggest thing is establishing the strength, getting in that weight room, hitting it, really hard. We didn't really have an off season. Didn't have an off season this year. I got in here. First day out with the kids was June 10th. And because of the storms and the situation, didn't have a scrimmage before our first game. So there's a lot of little adversity we had to face and challenge and get through, which is with any team and, any given year. And we'll make no excuses, but I believe our kids faced a lot and overcame a lot. So I think that adds to their experience and confidence going forward. And likewise with the coaching staff as well. So we're excited about the future.
And you mentioned earlier your faith, and you're outspoken about that. So how has that been a driving force in what you're doing as the head football coach?
That is absolutely everything. Absolutely everything. God, give God the glory for everything that we do. And like I said, my faith is the foundation of what I do, how I do it. It's my director, it's my guide and the whole deal. And it's my rock that I lean on. So, helps me to not look at, be so stressed out about this thing and always looking positive about everything and finding the positives in everything, even though things don't go right or to expectation, but always finding the positive. And I think kids need that nowadays, not just here in Lumberton, but everywhere. You make the corrections, but being able to, find the things that they did do right, or having the optimism and obviously the faith like I do going forward that, hey, we can get it done. Life is about teaching and learning. If you arrived, I'm kind of nervous about that. So, we should always be in a place of learning, want to get better, want to do better. And hopefully, the Lord is your Savior and your rock that you lead on. And when you have that, man, there ain't nothing but love, compassion, and patience ahead of you. And, keep it pushing that way. So, definitely is the guy that I am, the guy that's going to be in any set or grouping that I'm in. That's what you're going to get out of me. So, that's the way I steer myself and steer this team, and that's how we're going to hit it.
Coach Taurius Baker, thanks for joining us here on the Robesonian Sports Report.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
Yep.
Good one.
And we'll be right back. Back on the Robesonian Sports Report here on WAGR and going over this week's high school football games and also UNCP here locally. So Midway's at St. Paul's on Friday night. Lumberton's at Purnell Sweat. Red Springs is at West Bladen. Fairmont is at Clinton. And then West Virginia Wesleyan will be at UNCP on Saturday. So Midway and St. Paul's, this is a de facto conference championship game in the Southeastern Athletic Conference at 7 p.m. on Friday. Midway's 8-1 overall, 4-0 in the league, and they have a 7-game win streak since a non-conference loss back in August to James Keenan. They're under first-year head coach Barrett Sloan, and they've outscored the competition 185-54 in conference play. Not to be outdone, St. Paul's has 4 straight wins, and each in conference play by 38 points or more. They've scored 41 or more and allowed 6 or less in all those games. Midway runs the wing T offense. GMI Blues run for 778 yards and 10 touchdowns. Kamari McNeil for 642 and 11. And Matthew Miles for 547 yards and 5 touchdowns. They do throw the ball some for a wing T team. Tanner Williams has thrown for nearly 600 yards and 7 scores. McNeil, in addition to his run success, has caught the ball for 192 yards and 3 touchdowns. Defensively, linemen Wyatt Scott and Thomas Perez lead the way for Midway. They're both up. Scott's at 79 tackles. Perez has 68 with 11 tackles for loss. And it's a defense that I believe is allowing about 17 a game, but here lately it's been even more solid than that. St. Paul's is seeking its first conference championship in football since back in the fall season in 2021, which was their second straight at that time. Of course, the spring of 21, they won the conference and went all the way to the state championship game. St. Paul's is 6-1 in the series all-time against Midway. This is including the last 3 years as conference foes when St. Paul's has scored 51 points or more and won all 3 of those games. So they've had some success against the Raiders, and if they do so again on Friday night, they'll be the conference champs here in 2024. So a big game certainly at GS Kinlaw on Friday night. Elsewhere, Lumberton's at Purnell Sweat here in the big rivalry game in Robeson County to end the season. Both teams looking to enter the offseason off of some momentum with a rivalry win, whoever gets that win. Although there's an outside chance it won't be the offseason yet for Purnell Sweat, as they're currently the 5th team out of the 4A state playoffs, according to high school OT projections. So they definitely need to win on Friday night, and then they'll probably need quite a bit of help elsewhere as well to get up to the top 32 in the 4A East region to make the playoffs. Of course, last year they were coming into the Lumberton game appearing to need a win to solidify a state playoff bid. Purnell Sweat lost 15-12 to Lumberton in that game, but the Rams did end up being the last team in the state playoff field after all. Last week, Purnell Sweat snapped a 5-game losing streak with their win over Douglas Byrd. Lumberton, meanwhile, has lost 6 straight since it started the season at 3-0. It's Taurius Baker's first game against Purnell Sweat in the rivalry as the head coach of the Pirates, although he has experienced the rivalry as a Lumberton assistant back in from 2005 to 2011. We mentioned Purnell Sweat's kind of run-heavy second half against Douglas Byrd, how much success they had with that. So they'll be looking to continue that, but also trying to maintain a balanced offense and get their receivers involved. Coach Josh Deese was very clear about that as well. So we'll see what kind of an offense they run as they try to move the ball down the field. And then Lumberton scored, as I mentioned, 44 points in 6 conference games. So they're looking for an offensive spark back to what they looked like earlier in the season. And Coach Baker told me earlier this week it simply comes down to execution. All time, the series is tied 20-20, so somebody will have a series lead after Friday night. Last year's Lumberton win was its first since 2018 in the series, snapping a 3-game streak. They've won 7. The Pirates have won 7 of the last 11 meetings, and Purnell Sweat, though, has won 13 out of the last 23, dating back to 2000. So pretty even series history here in the Rams and Pirates rivalry. Here on the Robesonian Sports Report on WAGR, I'm your host Chris Stiles, sports editor at the Robesonian, looking at this week's high school football games. And I mentioned Midway and St. Paul's playing for the conference title. Everyone else in the Southeastern is playing out the string here. There won't be any other playoff teams in that league. Midway and St. Paul should both be in, but regardless of their outcome Friday. But Red Springs is at West Bladen, Fairmont at Clinton, and starting with that game at West Bladen, Red Springs looking to secure a third-place finish in the Southeastern Athletic Conference, and with a win, they'd be over 500 in the league. They'd be 3-7 overall, but 3-2 in the league if they could, in fact, beat the Knights on Friday. West Bladen did win last week at Fairmont to end a 3-game losing streak. Last year's game between these two was essentially a playoff play-in that Red Springs won 32-18. West Bladen had won the previous 2 meetings, but Red Springs has won 6 out of the last 8. And the all-time series is tied at 8 apiece. And then Fairmont at Clinton. Fairmont looking to avoid its second winless season in program history, the first coming back in 2003. Clinton is at the end of its own tough season, a rebuilding year that they've had following their state championship appearance last year. And, of course, plenty of personnel turnover that has led to what's currently a 1-8 record, 1-3 in the league for the Dark Horses. Their only win was a 40-12 win over West Bladen, the West Bladen team that just beat Fairmont 40-20 for what that's worth. Clinton is 8-0 all-time against the Golden Tornadoes. And then collegiately, West Virginia Wesleyan is at UNCP. It's a 1 p.m. kickoff Saturday at Grace P. Johnson Stadium on American Indian Heritage Day. This is one of the better theme days, if you will, that UNCP puts on all year long. They've often got Lumbee tribe inspired jersey design. I'm not sure if they're doing that or not, but they have in the past. And lots of other very tribe inspired things going on, be it tribal dancers and drums and things like that, or just other various ways that they honor and recognize the Lumbee tribe, which is, of course, so important here in Robeson County. West Virginia Wesleyan enters on a 21-game losing streak, a streak that is so long that the team's last win came back in 2022 against a school that no longer exists in Alderson Broaddus. They are coming off a 33-31 home loss to Concord, which is the closest game they've had in the losing streak. 84 rushing yards a game, 257.5 total yards per game. Both are worst in the Mountain East Conference. And they actually don't have a 200-yard rusher for the season through 8 games, which is quite startling. But Raphael Manning is their leading rusher. 2 quarterbacks are getting playing time, Nathan Payne and Quentin Pulley, both right around the 700-yard mark. 4 touchdowns for Payne and 7 for Pulley. They're also allowing 449 yards a game, which is the 9th worst in Division II, worst in the Mountain East Conference. 39.9 points per game allowed, which is actually 2nd worst in the MEC. There is a team worse than that, West Liberty, but it's the 7th worst mark nationally in Division II. They do have a couple of pretty standout defensive players in Riley Slaughter and at the linebacker position, and defensive lineman Jaden Swinger, who's got 8 tackles for loss and 3.5 sacks on the season. UNCP leads the all-time series over West Virginia Wesleyan 5-1. This includes a 56-0 win last year up in Buchanan, West Virginia. So if UNCP takes care of business, this should be a game where they can continue the momentum they've had here recently, particularly at home, with those couple of 60-some point outings the last 2 home games for the Braves. Of course, you can read about all this at Robesonian.com and in the print edition of the Robesonian. High school game recaps from last week, as well as UNCP. Preview for the high school games is live on the website and was in yesterday's paper. Also a predictions column coming today and a UNCP preview coming tomorrow. Coverage on Friday night of the high school games, on Saturday of UNCP. And then other fall sports, of course, continuing in season. We're done with volleyball here locally, but soccer, the United 8 Conference Tournament wrapped up last night. Lumberton losing 2-1 in the championship game to Cape Fear, but they're getting set for the state playoffs starting next week. And then it's almost basketball season as well. UNCP basketball previews will be coming soon as well for the Robesonian. So for Paul Matthews behind the scenes, thanks to Coach Taurius Baker for joining us. Thanks to you for joining us as well. I'm Chris Stiles, sports editor at the Robesonian, and we'll see you next week here on the Robesonian Sports Report on WAGR.